Hey guys, welcome back for yet another episode of VIPs in Action, Village Innovative Perinatal Support in Action, brought to you by Rose Breastfeeding Incorporated here in the Atlanta metro area and JMM Health Solutions. I am Dr. Joanne Michelle Martin, pelvic floor physical therapist and birth doula, owner of JMM Health Solutions. And I have been so blessed to be given the opportunity to conduct these interviews alongside all these amazing birth professionals throughout the country, guys, throughout the country, whether it is, Northwest, Northeast, West Coast, East Coast, it doesn't matter. We have had guests from everywhere in the country, and it's been amazing to see how women are being supported despite all the turmoil that the pandemic has brought. And today's guests are no exception. I'm very excited because they're from the West Coast. So excited. It's that different energy, different energy. So today I am very blessed to have on the duo from Sister Webb. Sister Webb provides culturally and linguistically congruent doula support for Black, Latinx, and Pacific Islander families most impacted by adverse birth outcomes in San Francisco. So without further ado, Marley, thank you so much for joining me. Go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourselves, a little bit about Sister Webb, how you got started, your community, you go for it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit about myself and how we got started. I am a San Francisco native. I am a Black San Francisco native. I like to say that, and I'm proud of it because of the history in San Francisco and, the income. It's very expensive to live here. It's really hard to stay in the city income-wise, and we're losing our Black population in San Francisco. It's dwindled, from the 60s and 70s to being about 25 to 30% down to 3 to 5% now, and 5% is on the high end. And even our historically Black communities, like most of our clients that are in our Black serving program, Kindred Birth Companions, come from the area that we currently live in, which is the Bayview Hunters Point, which is also where our office is located. And that's a part of this whole thing. So I'm a native San Franciscan. When I was about 24, I got pregnant. It was not planned. And, I was going through a lot of things. My daughter's father was really started to not be in the picture. And I went through a lot of stuff. I was having a lot of problems. And I eventually ended up with a high-risk pregnancy. And I didn't have any support. I had my family. I have a huge family, but I didn't have any support from my partner. I didn't have lots of education, although I'm an avid reader. I'm an avid researcher. I love to look up stuff. I'm like obsessed with births. I've been obsessed with birth and pregnant people forever. And I just read up while I was pregnant, but I had preeclampsia, I had gestational diabetes. My daughter was born just right at the edge of being preterm, stayed in the NICU for a week. But it was in those moments where I was both low and high that I thought that this work was for me, and the times that it was really bad, I just really enjoyed being pregnant, and I thought of all the good times. And when it was really good, I thought of like, what a wonderful way to support other people. And I had no idea about doula work, birth companionship, or anything. I was just the weird person who would go and talk to pregnant people and be with my friends and family when I was at a birth. And that's when I learned that it was a profession. And my immediate other part of me kicked in. I'm a second generation entrepreneur, so I start businesses. And I realized it was a career. So I went to go to training. And that's when I learned about the health disparities with Black women and what I experienced in my own pregnancy. Whether it was through my personal relationships, the lack of support, the racism that I experienced, the high risk and complications, the preterm birth, all of those things, being a single mother, like I experienced all of those things. And I wanted to help someone. And I realized that it was beyond just the regular support of, oh, I want to help you and make you feel good. There was actually, we were suffering from poor birth outcomes, and what I was going through just was not I was not alone, and I thought I was alone. And so I started doing births, and I was at a birth, and I had gone up to a very long birth, and I wasn't being paid because I was working in my community where they really can't afford to pay you, and nor was that really the point for me. Um, but I came home to like a notice to turn off my lights, and I lost it. And I was just so disappointed that I wouldn't be able to do this type of work, that I felt called, like the skies opened up. I felt called by this work, and I lost it because I was like, I can't do this, and I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm about to leave all this other stuff and do this, but there's no money. And so I met with the other, another one of our founders, and she was doing kind of the same thing in our mission district in San Francisco, which is historically a Latin community. And we were like, how can we get doulas to get what they're worth? You know, especially it's really hard for doulas, Black doulas, brown doulas, doulas of color to get paid what they're worth. And that is how Sister Webb started. So there's so much more to this, but I will let Marley jump in and tell her story, and then we'll jump in and we'll talk about Sister Webb together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Marna. It's always so inspiring to hear your journey and just the start of this organization that I'm so proud to be a part of. I am Marley I Mystic, and I currently serve as the Director of Doula Programs in Sister Webb. I have been a doula since 2012. And I say, actually, I was a doula since I was about 12 years old. My first experience with birth was with my own sisters and brothers, who at the age of 12, I had two nieces and two nephews come. Like, it was just back to back to back babies coming. And I was that younger sister who was able to go to some of those births and experience it. And it really just opened up my mind and my world. And I was at the time thinking, I want to be a pediatrician. I want to be a doctor. I want to be someone who is in the room, who can support mothers and babies. And as I continued on my journey, I just would tell people I'm gonna be a pediatrician, and whenever anybody was pregnant, I would go with them and want to be there and support them through their journey. And then I got to college and was like, I ain't finna be no doctor. All this school is just that's not my path. There has to be another way. And so I thought maybe counseling or working in nonprofits and, after school programs and things like that. And that's how my journey went, until I had my own daughter. I was also 24, and I had my daughter, and I was in a hospital birth, and I just felt so disrespected. I felt like I was an educated woman who knew what was going on with my body. And when I got into that hospital, they treated me like I didn't know anything. And I was adamant about my body being able to have a natural birth, about me being able to breastfeed. These were things that I knew I had the capacity to do. And yet I felt like they were telling me that I didn't. And so after that experience, I knew with my next child that I wasn't going to be in the hospital with medical providers because I didn't feel safe. And I was able to connect with the birth center. And that was a happy medium for me, because I was like, I don't know about having no baby in my house. If that's one extreme, I don't want to clean up the mess, but I also don't want to be here with the doctors. And so I was able to find a nice birth center here in the Bay Area, and they had doulas. It came with a doula. You had 2 midwives to support you, and you had your own doula. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't utilize her very much. I was like, I don't know what this lady's trying to be in my business. I had a baby already. I don't really need it. And as things progressed, I had some challenges during my pregnancy, and my doula was my lifesaver. She was the one who, knew the ins and outs of it. She could accompany me to all these extra appointments that I was having. She helped me to integrate my new baby in with the 3-year-old that I had. And it was interesting because I ended up having a home birth at her house, being with my doula at her home, preparing for the birth, and things just progressing so quickly that I ended up having a no tools, no birth kit birth at her house. And it was amazing. And as I continued to build my relationship with her, she said, that birth center that you birthed at is having a training, and you should be a doula. Like, you're already a doula, you should go ahead with the training. And I was able to train with midwives and attend births and get that real the kind of care that's close to my heart. That was really about that natural process. And it was serving people who were from all different walks of life. And I hadn't had that experience. I was really just working with my family. So as I continued on my journey through doula work, it was a side hustle. I kept my job. And then people I know had a baby, I take a couple of dollars or volunteer and be there for them. And as I continued to develop in my world, I was like, I want to do this work more professionally, like as my work. And I had no idea how that would happen until I was introduced to Marna. And she said, well, I'm working on getting doulas paid to serve their community. And I almost laughed, like, that'll be the day they're going to pay us to take care of us like that. Sure, sign me up. But I definitely say when she told me, I thought it was a fantasy. And here we are living this reality and serving our community each and every day, having births every month and seeing the change that we're able to make in these families here in the city. And it's just been a wonderful journey.
Wow, y'all just gave me chills. Just listening to those stories. I think that's such a beautiful thing, is to be able to hear somebody else's story, to be able to hear somebody else's journey, because it makes the present so much more powerful. It makes now all the work that you do, all the hard work, the effort, the passion, it makes that so much more relevant, because now you can see where you guys have come from. And I just applaud you both. So tell us a little bit about, now you serve the Latina community, you serve the Black community, and you said you also serve, is there a huge Pacific Islander population in the San Francisco area?
So the Pacific Islander population throughout the country is very small. And it's a small population. I think they're 1% of the San Francisco population. But when the data came out around health disparities and poor maternal outcomes and infant mortality and you name it, that they were doing just as bad, if not worse, than Black people in San Francisco. And there's a lot of reasons behind that we understand now, and like just the way that our country deals with another country that prohibits them at times from participating in some of the programs that are available to other people. And it's pretty incredible. And, they're a different type of community than many people are familiar with. And so it's always been like Pacific Islander people have always been a part of, for as long as I know of San Francisco's history, but there is very little, they're like an ignored population. And so we do participate and support the Pacific Islander community through our program.
So tell us a little bit more about, now you talked about, and this is something I hear from a lot of doulas as well. You talk about wanting to do community work. So there is that struggle between wanting to really serve within the community, wanting to really give back because you know it is beneficial, you know it is necessary, you know that these women need to be educated, they need that support, because it doesn't matter if you had a doctorate like myself or you didn't even have a degree. You walk into the hospital, they don't know you from Adam and you're still Black, right? And so we know that as a community, minority women need that support. But where is the balance between that and then you as professionals being able to make a living, right? Because we want to give so much, we still got to eat. And you guys have kids. So, I mean, and kids, like if your kids are anything like my kids eat a lot. So the babies have got to eat. So how did you find that medium to be able to better support, to still continue to support these communities, to still be able to give of yourselves, of your time, of your knowledge, and pour into them and find that happy medium?
Yeah, the eternal question, right? I think that's everyone's question. I will talk about like some of our organization, and Marley, I will definitely speak to community. But before I start, I want to acknowledge that the way that Sister Webb, the history that we all individually had was a major contributor to us being in a privileged place And I'm grateful for that, because very rarely are Black people and women and people of color in any place of privilege. And so we were able to get a large amount of seed funding to start our organization. And we literally started an organization. We are our own independent organization. We are not, employed by the hospitals. We're not city employees. We are employees, which that's a whole other piece. So we have moved from our doulas being independent contractors to employees with wages and benefits and medical benefits, especially important during a pandemic. And that was a tremendous feat and move. And it's not without, you know, lots of financial need, and it's not without its own kind of barriers and limitations and, risk, right? So I want to talk about that. But the way that the way we wanted to do this, we have been able to achieve, and we're still working it out. We're a new program. So we opened in March of 2019. So we're just over, we're just about to make 2 years in March 2021. So we're a young program. But because of our history, over 20 years of birth work experience between a lot of the founding members and relationships that we've built through hospitals and other providers and other community organizations, and being natives of San Francisco. And, those are relationships you can't duplicate that authenticity, right? It just can't be duplicated. And it's through that we were able to secure seed funding to create our program. And so in that program, we were new because we've never done anything like this. You know what I mean? It's usually a handful of people deciding they're going to do something with a little bit of money, and so we realized pretty quickly that an independent contractor model wouldn't really work for us, but we had no other way to start it. So we started that knowing that, and COVID kind of sped up our process of bringing people on as employees, but there's a lot of expense to having employees. But the reason we did that is because I go back to it being San Francisco is a very expensive city. There's no way around that. And so there's an economic empowerment that we wanted to have, and making sure people had wages and money that they could depend on to support their family, knowing the majority of families in San Francisco are headed by women. And it's even more so when you look at women of color and families of color in the city. So there was two things that we wanted to do. We wanted to provide this service that all of our doulas and all of our staff wanted to do, was help people of color in our own community, in our own backyard and city. And then we also wanted to provide stability for doulas to do the work in their community. And through the grace of God and blessing and prayers and all of the things, we've been able to do that. And it's pretty magical. And it's not without its own challenges, but we've been able to achieve a number of really big goals, milestones. We partner with the hospitals in San Francisco. All of the hospitals in San Francisco partner with us. We have bi-directional feedback, and that's a big key thing in a lot of the interactions that happen, especially people who have had past histories of racism and discrimination in healthcare settings. You go in, you don't feel right, but you don't really know who or what to complain about or where it's going to land, and you leave it alone. Well, when you're working with us, we have an opportunity to go and find out what happened, and let's prevent that. Or what you did was great. How do we get those things to happen more, right? So we have those opportunities. We're working very closely, again, through our relationships with the city and county of San Francisco and the public health department, to work to do this, because they have acknowledged the harm done in Black communities in San Francisco, the harm done in medical practice, the harm done in our birth and health outcomes that is preventable And we are just in a magic opportunity where we have a Black woman mayor. We have a lot of Black leadership that are, all of us are Native. And we have grown up and seen our city fall apart and be less diverse. And it's just, it's an overall, like this is an overall thing, and it trickles into birth. But it's like magical connections. I walk in and I know the people, you know what I mean? So it's like, hey, this is the things that we need. You guys have to make room for it. Here are the facts behind it. Can you deny these facts that these people are dying and this thing is happening? No. And it's working out. So not that it's perfect, but we have an opportunity to do that, and do that as an independent organization. And San Francisco is just a unicorn city where we have an opportunity to do that. And so we're taking it and running. But as far as the community service, Marley is the director of doula programs, and she's all in the mix with our doula clients and our programs. And I want to give her airtime to talk about it.
Yes, tell us.
Well, definitely. I mean, I think you said it, Marna, is the biggest difference between Sister Webb and other community organizations or doula organizations is that we no longer have to choose if we're going to serve our community or if we're going to take care of ourselves and our families. It's really given us an opportunity to serve our communities, do this work, and it be our primary employment. It be the work that we do. It doesn't have to take a back seat. And that's a lot of times what we had to decide, like you were saying, is like, oh, I want to serve my people, but I want to take care of myself. How do I do it? And the way that Sister Webb has opened that up and provided the care to our clients and to our doulas is astounding. Like I said, something I couldn't imagine. And the way that we work had to even shift because we are employees, and most doulas I know have never been employed. They're doing their own business, or they're working in a collective or a cohort of, a group where they have to be entrepreneurs. They have to promote themselves, get their own clients, continue their own education to stay up to date on what's going on, build those relationships in the hospitals, build those relationships with midwives or providers who they are working with. And Sister Webb has that structure within it. So our doulas are able to work in cohorts or partnerships so that they have a backup, that they have someone, if things come up, they're able to take some time off. Like I said earlier, we're getting births every month. Every doula has at least one birth a month that they're attending. And so that is a lot. We work with clients starting as early as 10 weeks gestation, all the way up until 28 weeks, we can get someone in the intake and begin that care. And it's not just birth support. We're there to help them get the community resources that they need, to help provide peer support for them as they're navigating the system, navigating this whole journey of pregnancy. And we're there to prepare them for the actual birth, the birth plan, the different positions, how to advocate for themselves. With COVID coming in, we've had to go virtual for our support. There was a time when the majority of the hospitals were not allowing doulas to be there, and we had to provide virtual support or prepare the partner who is going to attend the birth to be like a mini doula. Like, we're gonna do a mini doula training for you so you can be in there and support your birthing person. And so the care at Sister Webb is so much more than what I was trained to do just as a doula. It wasn't about really supporting that whole person. We were very focused on the labor, but with Sister Webb, we work, like I said, from 10 weeks, and we go 6 weeks postpartum and then some. 6 weeks is our final postpartum visit, but many times there are resources. We're care coordinating to make sure that we don't just leave people high and dry at the end. We know it takes much longer than 6 weeks to recover and recuperate from a birth and this whole lifestyle change that has just come into your world. And so coming from the same communities, having that same language that is used across the programs, it makes for that relationship to be unlike any other relationship that's created from a care provider, from someone who's there to support you. And we hear that time and time again from our clients that, wow, my Sister Webb doula, I had family, I had a medical team, but my Sister Webb doula understood me. I didn't have to explain what I was feeling because they come from the same community and can say, I see you, I understand you, and here's how we can make this better. Here's how we can advocate for you and make sure that you have a respectful birth and that you feel empowered in this life process and don't feel like it's one that's taking from you, but it's giving.
That's so powerful. That is so, so powerful. And I think it shifts the perspective, right? It allows the doulas to be more focused on the birth, on the clients, on what they're doing and how they're providing care. And that's so, so important. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, we've gone through this pandemic and it's been crazy, right? Yeah, everybody thought it was, in 2 weeks it'll be over. We'll only be shut down for 2 weeks. And here we are, a whole year and change later. Well, year and change for like New York and some other places. Here in Georgia, California too. Here we're kind of, we got shut down that second week of March. And it's almost March again. So, it's almost the year. We've been going through this. How has this pandemic affected you guys, the care that you've delivered, the service that you've been able to render to your clients? And were you finding in San Francisco that you were having a lot of hospitals who were having crazy mandates for the doulas, like in so many other areas where they weren't allowing doulas? Or, even with regards to the moms, they were separating moms and babies and different things like that. Speak about that a little bit.
I can definitely speak about that. First of all, kind of setting the scene of what we did, right? Prior to COVID, our model of care was in-person support from the intake through the birth through 6 weeks postpartum. And that meant going to families' homes, sitting with them for 2 hours to discuss their fears, their thoughts, their plans, their goals, coming back a couple weeks later, spending time, breaking bread, really building the relationship with them, being there on call. Like our doulas, from the time that they're matched, our clients can contact them anytime, day or night. It's not just when you're in that 37-week, time to have a baby. We're there all the time. We're going for walks, we're meeting with them, we're, really becoming a part of their world so that trust is there. When we go into the hospitals, we've built relationships with the labor and delivery floors. We know the nurses, the OBs, we're able to communicate. We come in and they're like, oh, Sister Webb is here. We're so excited to have you here with your clients, So we had a very friendly, mutual relationship with the providers and the clients. When COVID hit, we had been building those relationships. And so the first thing we had to do, because they shut down all the hospitals, one support person only. So all of our clients had to say, am I going to choose my doula or am I going to choose the father of my baby or my mother, my friend, whoever, these people who are close to my family. And for us, it was a huge shift because all of our plans had been to be there in person with you to support you. And it was detrimental at first. We were all sad. We didn't know what to do. It was like, are you serious? How are we going to support our moms? How are we going to make sure that they're getting the care, the quality care that is our job to hold sacred? And so with the fine leadership of Sister Webb and the insight they had, they said, we can do this. Look, we can go virtual. We had some hospitals come up with iPads and different tablets and things so that we could support them in the hospital virtually. We were on phone calls for visits. We immediately shifted our care from 3 prenatals to touching base multiple times to try to build that relationship. Some people still like to get on the video and do a 2-hour call, but the majority of folks needed more contact. So we're going to check on you. I'm about to be your new boo. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take you in the morning and be like, good morning. How you doing? You got a doctor's appointment coming up. Let's check in about it instead of having that sit down time to just be together. And then on the postpartum, we did have some folks who were just really in need of support. That's something that they needed. They were looking forward to having. And so we had to be very specific about our care and go even more to the one-on-one case-by-case scenario in order to provide that support. And what that looked like was doing more things for resources. We were able to do grocery deliveries. We were able to do PPE and supplies drop-offs to our family so that they had all the supplies they could need to stay safe during this time. We had to also just stay in constant communication with the hospitals. I know that my work level as a Champion Dyad initiative person was phone calls every week instead of monthly meetings, sometimes twice a week to say, what are the protocols going? What can we expect when we go in there? We have a client who really needs extra support. Is there anything you can do to navigate to get us a special, backdoor entry into the place? And it just took so much more advocacy. And at first, I know many of the clients who started off their care in person were very disappointed. We did have a dip of people who even called to get support in births. We had a dip for people who wanted postpartum. But as things progressed in this pandemic, we saw an influx of actual touch points, people being more able to show up for meetings, people having more contact with their doulas, people feeling like, oh, I want to bring my family on these calls, and building up that community resilience to advocate for themselves, which is truthfully the ultimate goal. We want people to be able to advocate for themselves and speak up for themselves. And so this shift in COVID, you know, there's always that silver lining in these. There's always an opportunity with the challenge. And that opportunity for us was to be more in contact and to provide more care for our clients and to build a different relationship, even with this separate socially or physically distanced world. And I can say that we've had some great partnerships with hospitals to say, okay, Sister Webb, we're going to let you in. This is the process. We need to have your name on the list. You know, we're going to make sure that we know the kind of work you do. We know the kind of clients that you serve. And this is a disservice to them. It goes against our own statement to say that we are here to work against racism, to support our clients. And so they had to step it up. The hospitals had to step it up. And our champion dyad partners within the hospitals really advocated for us to say, we need to get doulas back in the hospital because they are important and we need them here. And thankfully, I can say we're operating primarily out of the hospitals now and being able to support people in person. They're able to have their one support person and their doula. So it's been a challenge, but it's not a challenge that we weren't up to, to face. We were up to face this challenge. We came like Malcolm X, by any means necessary. We're going to make sure that they get this service and that we're there to provide and advocate for our clients.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'd also like to add that we also have to do advocacy within the hospital, because when they asked us to come back, they didn't give us a lot of consideration. They were saying we can't change out, like once you're in, you can't switch out with your partner. You know, there were different restrictions that were happening. And we were like, well, wait a minute, we need you to think about these things. So through our own partnerships and advocacy, we were able to change the policies at every hospital in the city around letting doulas shift out, around what they had access to, how they can get in and out. There was a lot of things that we were able to be there and be at the table and say, this is what people who are coming in serving their community need. And I will never take for granted those opportunities to raise my voice and speak and advocate for my community when I have the chance. And I recognize that we have a chance to do that. So I'm like she said, by any means, we're on it. We are like, put your backpack on, we're doing it. You know what I mean? So I just want to say that there's always also a twofold piece that we're always looking out for in everything, which is looking out for the safety and well-being and health of our staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much has happened, and with a lot of those changes, like you said, some of the policies just didn't make sense. They just didn't. And I mean, on the one hand, it's like, okay, you're making decisions in a pinch, whatever have you. But realistically, do you really understand the people that you serve and what their needs are? And so I think this is another reason, again, why doula work, birth advocacy is so important, because I feel like that sector of many hospitals is oftentimes left kind of like at the wayside. It's like people just come here, have babies, and they leave, versus being intentional about how they serve the community, how they serve that population within their facilities. So I think that the work that you're doing there is very important. How have you been able to, so you guys were recipients of the VIPs in Action grant from Rose, and how has this been able to shape some of the things that you were doing and some of the ways that you were able to serve moms?
So the Rose funding provided a very critical piece, which is we needed phones and we had to pay those phone bills. And so the Rose funding allowed me as an employer to give my staff phones for their own safety and well-being, but also dedicated lines so that they have access to the clients have access to them, They don't have to worry about having data issues or going over, or my phone, I can't pay the phone. I don't know what issues people come up with, but I know that us being able to provide that level of technology to our staff has been really critical and a game changer. So we're very appreciative of the Rose funding because our phones stay on. And that's the critical touch point between our staff and each other and our doulas and their clients. And it's often overlooked. And so we were really in a desperate place, and the Rose funding came in like right in the clutch, like, yes. Yes,
It's always the little things though, right? Like
absolutely.
some people are thinking it's like big things, you need big equipment or something. Like, no, we just need phones. We need access. That's all it is. We need access. We need our clients to have access, right? Because now we've got this pandemic, stuff is shutting down. Nobody can go anywhere. Nobody can get sometimes the things that they need. We need to make sure people have access. And I think that that's a key. And that, you guys are in a major metropolitan area. So I don't suspect you guys have much issues with, infrastructure like internet and stuff like that, right?
That is actually, so it's very interesting because like any other city and any other major city, the divide that what is it? What is the word? The information divide, the technology divide is very great. It's pretty big over here, even in the area that we live in and where our office is. The reception in certain areas is spotty.
Wow.
Some of the places don't have adequate access to the place. There's not enough of a signal to get those free internet opportunities when they arrive. You know what I mean? So across the board, it has, beyond Sister Webb, like there's a big technological gap, and it's really causing problems within our communities of color, whether it's school or whatever. So having access to tech is still like a coveted thing.
Wow. And you hear about those things mostly in rural areas where infrastructure is not well developed, so they don't have these things, and it may be challenging. And you'd think that in a major city they'd have their stuff together, right? But then it just goes to show again, and when you look at the areas where there is a lack, it always comes back to communities of color. And so we see this persistent theme in our societies where there's just lack of regard for communities of color, lack of regard for the things that they need. Because if it was an affluent area, they'd have service, right? And so we again, things that, we've got to keep on sounding the alarms and continue the dialogue so that people are aware. Like we don't make this stuff up, y'all. This is real life. This is real life. We don't make this stuff up. And I think that more people need to hear, more people need to be aware, because sometimes they might hear the one-off story and they're like, oh, that's sad, but that's not everywhere. But when you have communities coming from every state, every region, and they're saying, listen, this problem isn't unique to this area. Like, sure, each area may have their own unique challenges, but we're having these same issues with systemic racism, with, lack of resources, with blatant disregard for our concerns as a community. Then that is a problem, and that is a problem that needs to be addressed. So thank you for pointing that out, because again, most people would just assume, I was hopeful that because it's a major city, y'all would have some good internet, but there you go.
Yeah. There's lots of work to be done, even in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. So what about future projects? So we're, again, at this point in time, we're like a whole year and change into the pandemic, right? We've been able to pivot. Some facilities have opened back up to allow, doulas to go back in, to be able to support moms, to be able to support families and kids. What do you see on the horizon for Sister Webb? What projects or what new programs do you have available to continue not only to serve those you're currently serving, but as a way to maybe incorporate more, expand, and just kind of continue doing all the magical things that you guys are already doing?
Yeah, good question. Again, we're a very new program, so we're like just about to hit our second year. So right now we've just started our strategic planning process to outline exactly those things. If I was to look at what's important for us right now and what we're working on the side of, we know we do good work and we have an evaluations team and deep and extensive and complex evaluations to prove that, which was very important in telling our story. When they ask us how much did we do, how well did we do it, we can give them the numbers. When they want to discredit or downplay what Black people are doing to help Black people and what communities of color are doing to help themselves, we have the data to show outstanding work. So what we really want to do is fine tune and smooth out all of the bumps that we've had to encounter since starting a program, having to pivot and shift the program. And one of the places that we find most value is in our workforce development and our mentorship. Right now, we have all of the mentors, all of our doulas have mentors. So they have a mentor, that they have a thought partner that they could talk and discuss and debrief clients, ask questions, all of that. As of right now, all of our mentors are midwives. And so they get very close connection with a midwife to talk about birth and the challenges and the joys and the triumphs that come up with their clients, with their work. um, Redesigning things, making use of their strengths, getting support for their weaknesses, and or I don't want to say weaknesses, but the places that they can improve on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really important, making sure that they understand what needs to be known in order to be a good doula, a good Sister Webb doula. Um, we have the workforce development, which is, as we continue to hire more people, we're going to be hiring people from the community that also need to know job skills. So not only is it birth work and those competencies, but they also need those hard and soft skills just in job um, retention and work, right? So those are very important places that we're looking at strengthening. And we're also really excited to have created such a great system that two of our doulas have gone on, and our one has just got the message this week to start studying midwifery. So,
Nice.
and we have another doula that wants to become a nurse. So there are opportunities where, doula work at some point will stop. It'll have a scope of work where it ends, right? And there are going to be people who are going to see opportunities to go further, do more. There are other reproductive justice careers that we're exposing our staff to, that they didn't think that they could be this statistician, and now they are running on crazy with data, and they didn't know that they could apply that into birth work and really be fulfilled. So there could be opportunities where we are more intentional about what those pipelines look like. And because we have the close connections with places like UCSF, which is one of the top hospitals that has a midwifery program. And we want to be committed, and they want to be committed to creating more midwives of color, Black midwives and other midwives of color. We want to be there if we can. If it fits, we want to be there. So our big thing is really streamlining and getting our program running smoothly with our staff, working on the workforce and mentorship, making sure that our doulas have the training that they need, the ongoing training, the mentorship, and the professional development that they need. And that's where we're at now. We'll see what the strategic planning process tells us we should be going. And, we're in it to win it. And, we're just excited to be able to do this. This is like a dream come true for me personally, to be able to do this type of work in my community.
I love your passion. I absolutely do. And mentorship is like the gift that keeps on giving, or at least that's what I refer to it as, right? Because when somebody's been poured into, it's so much easier for them to pour into somebody else. And there's so many people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be within the birth professions, but you see those people who lack mentorship. They burn out easy. They don't know which direction to go. They don't really have a good guide. They don't really know how to appropriately navigate, you know, whatever that career path may be. And I think that for you guys offering that for your employees and just developing that particular type of culture, it says a lot. It speaks volumes to who you guys are. And, you know, culture is a huge thing. It's a huge thing. I mean, that's amazing. And anybody coming into that organization knows that that's just the starting point. You know, they have the opportunity to grow and to continue to serve. And that is so beautiful.
Definitely. And I think our doula programs are expanding and becoming more complex in terms of the way that they engage with clients. And we've had a lot of our clients to say, we want mommy groups, we want more childbirth education classes to come from you all. We don't want to have to go somewhere else to get those. And so our coordinators and our programs, as they continue to develop their programs, are like, we're going to be bringing forth some mommy circles for support. We're going to bringing forth some breastfeeding classes, some daddy classes. We want to make sure that we're able to bring people together, because I love the name Sister Webb. And when I do intakes with clients, I say at 6 weeks, you know, you're done with your care, but you're always a part of the web. We want you to still be a part of this connection, be a part of it, and be able to come back as a doula to be able to support and talk to other families who are going through this journey. And I think on the program level, that's the next step, to really try to build more community amongst our clients and across programs.
That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. How can people find you guys? If they, you know, they want to get connected with Sister Webb, they're in the San Fran area, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea they existed. We've got like a Black doula collective. This is amazing. How do they get in touch with you?
They could visit our website, www.sisterwebb, like sister, I have a sister, and web, like a spider web, sisterwebb.org. So www.sisterwebb.org. They can also email us at info@sisterwebb.org. And also, if they are looking for a doula, they could fill out a form on our website. There's a button that says request a doula, and they could fill it out, and we'll get to them. So those are the ways that they can contact us. They can also, we have social media. Wait a minute.
Yeah, come on now. Come on. Let me figure out. Look,
we have social media. Facebook is Sister Webb Doulas. Twitter is Sister Webb Doulas. Instagram, Marley, you'll tell them about the Instagram because I can't remember.
It's Sister Webb Doulas as well, and our individual programs are also on Instagram. So if you want more information about Black, Latinx, or PI birth experiences, you can go to mana.pacifica, MANA.PASEFIKA, Pacifica. And then you can go to Semilla Sagrada, which is a lot to say if you don't speak Spanish, but for our Spanish speakers out there, you know what I'm talking about, that sacred seed on Instagram, and Kindred Births as well. So we're out there, we're getting information out, we're connecting people with resources, even if they're not our clients. So definitely follow us on social media.
So I just friended you guys on Instagram, and I'm trying to, you said Semilla Sagrada?
Yes.
Yes. SEMILLA. S. This is S.
SAGARAD.
Okay, it's all A's. SAGAR.
It's a lot of A's.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I was like, I always felt like there was an E and I messed it up one time.
Yeah, their full name is Semilla Sagrada Compañeros de Partos. So they're companions of birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There we go. I got him. Just followed you on the gram. I got you.
Yes.
And listen, I'm all about it. I love support. I love this stuff. I was just talking to someone else today, and I said my cup has truly been filled, because when I see people, it's one thing for people who just do stuff, right? But it's another thing when people are passionate about what they do. Like when they are really passionate about what they do, it shows. And to know that, these services exist, to know that organizations such as Sister Webb exist, and not just and you highlighted something really important, not just for Black communities, but for Latina communities, because there's not a lot out there. I mean, there are some, yeah, but there are not a lot for Latina communities either, right? And if you know anything about Latin culture, family is huge. So I'm pretty sure that any Latin American women who were birthing in the hospital during COVID, where it's like you only get one person, was struggling. Because I mean, you pretty much got the whole because family is so huge. But to know that there are organizations like this that offer support, to know that there are organizations out there that are there for the moms, and not just you're gonna have your baby and then we're done, because this is a transactional agreement, but to know that you are now a part of a greater community, to know that you guys have brought them in, and it's like, yeah, your baby's gonna be like 10 and you're still gonna be one of us. You know, that's a magical thing, and I commend you guys for that. I think that that is so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you're listening to this, please go follow them on all the things. So, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't tweet, y'all can have that, but but make sure that you are following them on social media. Again, sisterwebb.org to find out more information. If you have family, friends in the San Francisco area, please go ahead and share that with that community, so that people know that there is support out there. And mamas know that, hey, I got somebody looking out for me. I got somebody who's got my back, you know, who's going to be there to advocate for me. So again, www.sisterwebb.org. Please follow them. Please support them in any way that you can. Ladies, I just want to thank you for coming on and being a part of the VIPs in Action series. You guys are amazing.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and having Sister Webb.
You guys are amazing.
Shout out, if you are a Pacific Islander, Latinx, or Black doula living in San Francisco Bay Area, please reach out to us. We want to build community. We want to offer support. We want to be connected, because that's another challenge, is trying to find where we are. We know we're out here doing the work. We know we're here and we are all that we need. So definitely connect with us if you're out there doing the work as well.
Yes. I love it. I love it. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us and tuning in to yet another episode of VIPs in Action, where we highlight all the amazing birth workers, birth professionals throughout the country, not just in one area, y'all, but throughout the entire country, who are doing amazing work to support moms, to support families, to support communities. So until next time, take care.